Welcome back to the sesh. I have a very special guest, Hillary England. She is a content creator I've connected with on TikTok and in our community. Shout out to Cass. I always give Cass
Yeah,
a shout out.
absolutely.
Um, but she has shared her medical mystery journey on the internet for all of us to see. And I've gone through your content and I was just like, to be poked and prodded so much just to find the answer. Like, that must be mentally draining and physically draining for you to partake. So, how would you like to enlighten us on how that started for you?
So, absolutely, it can be mentally draining. Mostly in the sense that, so for all your listeners who may not know, I run a full service financial company from my house, and then I also homeschool both of our kids who are ages 5 and 8. And on top of all of that, I'm still trying to schedule doctor's visits. So the
Mom
first
goals.
half, I mean, it was crazy. Like the first half
Yeah.
of last year, literally every week, it was a doctor's appointment. And in between every doctor's appointment was work
Life.
meetings. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Just day to day life. Yeah.
so it
That can
was
be draining, though, on you and
so draining.
taxing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, we had like a medical scare where I ended up in the ER because I had an allergic reaction to some medication that a doctor prescribed me. And it was this really big thing. My husband ended up having to take off work for a few days just to like be home with me because that was physically draining, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't sleep. I had no time to kind of rest or recuperate. So, definitely something that was mentally draining, physically draining. It's still something that's physically draining in the sense
Yeah, I
that,
can only imagine. I don't like being poked. I don't like needles. A lot of my listeners know I used to be an addict, so
mm,
needles and I do not mesh. I avoid them at all costs. Not because of I feel like I'll relapse, but more of like the asphyxiation of having a needle. And so for me, I was just like, nope, this is me. But I can only imagine, like, how do you balance, trying to go from doctor's appointment to doctor's appointment, still getting frustrated in this journey of like, okay, I know something's wrong with me, but all the doctors say everything's clear, everything's fine. Like, that must be so frustrating in that process because you probably don't feel validated, in the
oh, yeah,
healthcare at all. And
we're
then,
not.
oh, yeah. And then you have to literally be your like own advocate and speak for yourself. And that's like, for me, I'm a type of person that, like, if I can't speak up for myself, I'll stay quiet. But in your case, like, you literally have to. It's a life or death situation.
Oh, yeah. And, prime example was when I ended up in the ER. Prior to that, days prior to that, I had called my medical professional who prescribed me this medication. I said, "Hey, I'm experiencing these side effects from this medication." And my doctor was like, "No, it's not from the medication. Just keep taking it." So I called back because that happened on a Friday. And then I called back on a Monday and I said, "Hey, no, I'm seriously experiencing these side effects. It's stated here with the prescription you gave
On the
me
bottle, yeah.
on the bottle, like these are the side effects. And I'm experiencing them." And again, she was like, "It's not the medication." And I said, "Okay." And 2 days later, I was in the ER. And I mean, feeling like it doesn't matter what you say, you're still wrong is extremely taxing. Um,
Yeah, because it makes you
definitely having
feel,
to be,
yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it makes you feel like you're a liar, kind of thing. Like, I know this is what's wrong with me, and
it, it,
things.
it makes me feel like I don't want to say I don't feel like I'm crazy, but I feel like people around me who don't know me, who just kind of look and see me, will think I'm lazy, will think I'm not trying to do my job, or will look at me and be like, "Oh, you're just trying to find an excuse," right? Because so
Yeah.
many of the symptoms I experience are things that you can't see, right? Like I get pins and needles on the right side of my face, sharp shooting pain throughout my body. I get migraines. I get headaches that last for, I had the longest headache I had lasted about a month and a half. I mean, it just
Oh
never
no.
went away. And so when you experience these things and you have fatigue and you have the brain fog and you're forgetting things, it's really, really difficult to even communicate that to people. Like my husband knows me, he sees me on a daily basis, but there's a point in time even for him like he doesn't quite get it. He tells me like
Yeah,
your head hurts. Okay, do your job. And I mean it's not him trying to be mean, it's really him just saying like my
it's
body hurts
life.
too. I still
Yeah.
go to work. And nothing against anybody who has symptoms. It's not like a competition, right? It's not a gauge. It's not my pain is better or worse than yours. It's more this how can we relate to each other and still be compassionate? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Like,
know exactly what you mean because my husband and I have gone through a season in my depression, too, where it was like he was my greatest hype man. He was the one that was like, get your butt in the shower. You haven't taken a shower in a days. And it took a toll on our marriage. It took a toll on our communication. And I can only imagine like how that would be. But at the end of it, we became stronger. We became to understand each other on a different level than most people
it's a
can
deeper
understand.
level.
Yeah, because you're in a fight, an unseen fight that nobody sees, but is behind closed doors, and like your partner hates to see you hurting, and they can't do nothing about it. And then they obviously when you're in a really healthy loving marriage, your partners are going to want to fulfill those things. They're going to want to fix it. They're going to want to make it feel better. And when it's like those unhidden things, like with mental health, with your undiagnosed illness, it's those things that you don't see. It's like they want to see the surface level. Well, no, I don't feel good today. I don't feel like it's worth my time. And then for you, it's like you literally can't get out of bed. It's so fatigued.
Yeah.
So
And
has
it's
that really affected your marriage? Your uncovering this and being on this journey.
Yeah, I think we've gained a deeper understanding, like you were talking about. We've gained a deeper understanding of each other and the way in which we deal with medical issues, right? Like, so
Hmm.
him and I are both, I love to tell people this, we're the same, but we're different, right? Like,
Ah,
we're the same in our core beliefs, right? Like, so the way we want to raise our kids, the way we want our marriage to be, like our fundamental values are the same, but we're different, completely opposite in the way in which we go about bringing those fundamentals to life.
yeah.
So, where I
Which
come
also
from,
brings a
the,
unique perspective. Also,
oh,
being
yeah,
able to see something like sometimes when you're in it and you don't want to feel like you're missing that validation, you kind of see it from their perspective too. They're like, no, well, you kind of were acting this way, or oh yeah, and so I can see that healthy balance, like you balance each other out.
yeah. Like, see, my husband is the type where, so I went to two or three different doctors, right, within about a month, and each of them came back with the same answer. Everything's fine. Your labs are fine. It's normal. There's nothing wrong with you. And I got so mad and I was like, okay, well, who do I need to go see? And my husband was like, why do you need to go see anybody else? So, where he was like, oh, it's been
We're
a month
done.
and they're just telling me you're normal. Okay, then I'll just leave it alone and I won't worry about it anymore. Where I was like, no, it's clearly a problem. I need to fix it. I need to find the solution. I need to find out what is causing all of this. I need to know the problem.
The root of it.
Right, because my mentality was like, well, if you get a crack in the wall, right, of your house, and then you're thinking, okay, well, this is probably a foundation issue, you call them and the foundation people come out and say, no, the foundation of your house is fine. Are you just going to sit there and watch that crack grow and grow and grow until it breaks the entire wall of your house and then you got to turn around and build a whole new house? Like
Some
that's
people do though. Some people have that mentality. So I can see his perspective too. He was just like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They say you're fine. And you're like, no, like seriously, like this is affecting me in ways that you just can't comprehend, your day to
Mhm.
day life.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like I love cooking and so I'm in the kitchen. I cook food a lot. Like I meal prep. I had to start meal prepping, right? I wanted to do it. I kind of did it out of necessity because me cooking every day, I don't know if I'm going to be able to cook on some days. And then it got to be on days where I was forgetting I had stuff on the stove and I'm boiling water out of my pots, turning them black and smoking up the entire house. And so I've like forgot stuff in the oven. And so for me, it kind of came to that point that I had to acknowledge I can't even remember how to cook. It sounds crazy, but
Oh
I
no,
was like,
I know. I was not a
I'm like,
cook at all.
I,
My husband promised me when we first got married. He's like, "I'll eat every bad meal until you got it right." He bought me a
oh, that's
rice
sweet.
cooker from Goodwill. It was like best $10 he ever spent because he was tired of me making crunchy rice.
That's awesome. You know,
So,
and I tried to make rice and
yeah.
I boiled the entire pot of water out, like no more water, pot was black.
Okay.
And
And
excuse
that's
me, I
due to
was
the
talking,
mind fog. Like that's due to your like because you're not here. You're
yeah.
dissociated. I've done a lot of trauma work, so I know like when you even that for you and your body is in shock and that's traumatic an experience. So your body
Mhm.
kind of stores all of those things, and so your mind once in a while will just be like, I'm ready to deal with that trauma, and then when it's released, your brain and your mind you can't cohese a thought at all.
That's fascinating because I wonder sometimes, like, why does my brain go over here? Like, I'm there, I'm completely present, I know what we're talking about. And then out of nowhere, just like a
It'll
snap,
just drift off. Yeah.
it's just gone. And I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, how did I get way over there?
Yeah,
That's
I've done the
fascinating.
trauma work because I've experienced extreme flashbacks. So
Wow.
I suffer from childhood trauma.
Mm.
Um, and I have had like, the house being raided by the police with guns coming in look and
Whoa.
I'm looking for my uncles or my mom or whatever, and mind you they're not even there. I'm just with my grandparents. But I didn't know that my brain checked out at 5 and 6 and 8 when those incidents happens. So now that I'm an adult and I raise my children, they can walk up the door and instantly that flashback will happen. My husband will touch me on the shoulder and like kind of like makes me. I don't like anybody behind me. I don't like anybody to stand behind me, especially a man. So for
Wow.
me, um, it's I've done that trauma work, but I realized that in my last mental breakdown, I needed to go through that because those I didn't realize that was my brain and my mind telling me I can deal with this now.
Yeah.
It couldn't deal with it then, but now they want you to deal with it now. Um, and that's where you dissociate because when you're so much in pain you kind of can't process what's right in front of you.
How crazy and incredible the body is, right? Like the way that
Yeah.
it knows when it's ready to heal itself. It knows when it's ready to like do these things, and that's
Yeah, our
incredible.
brains are like magnificent in itself and we only use like what maybe 30-40% of our brain. So imagine we had
I
full
I don't
capacity like
I mean, I've clearly met people who use like 5% of their
percent.
brain,
Right,
but
well yeah, I've met those
I don't,
people
I
too.
don't know how much I
Yeah.
use. I hope I'm more than the 5%.
So going back to food and trying to figure out those things, have you been able to use food in that way to help heal some of those ailments?
Partially. So I started an antioxidant shake, right? It's literally just I do strawberries, blueberries, raspberries. I get the super brown bananas, right? The kind that are great for
Hmm.
like banana bread. And
Yeah.
I put all those together and I use kefir, which is like yogurt milk. That's what my kids call it
Oh,
because
you
it,
said kefir? I
yeah.
thought it was cannabis because there's kefir. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a little cannabis lesson for those. Keef, which is basically when you grind up the flour, the leftover powder, that's what that bottom of your grinder is for. You just sprinkle it upon. A lot of people use it in cannabis cooking to make
Huh.
canna butter out of. They sprinkle it upon. If you ever watched the show Weed a Kid, they tells you how to make. There's these. groundbreaking chefs around the world that he goes and sits and they all partake in a cannabis meal. Um,
How fascinating. So they just like they cook with it and this is
yes,
just and that's what it's called.
yes,
Fascinating.
yeah.
Well, I am learning and I will start calling it kefir yogurt milk when I talk to
Yeah,
people.
instead of Keith. Yeah, don't say it's Keith because people are gonna think that you and Mary Jane are hanging out. So,
Yeah. So,
but that's what I tell my kids though when we go. I tell everyone around me. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go hang out with Mary Jane, and everyone laughs because like they're like, who? And I was like, I'm gonna go hang out with Mary. My kids will tell it. Oh, my mom's going to hang out with her friend.
oh, that's funny. Well, I mean, it's kind of a good thing that, you're at least able to be open and discuss that with those who are around you. Because there's a lot of people who are in the situation where I'm sure it would be very beneficial to them, but there's so many people who are narrow-minded or closed-minded around them that kind of make them feel even more, um,
Yeah. Well, I was really
self-conscious about
hesitant
it.
to because I'll let you know I have it's a really hard way for me to say this because I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. Um, I have I have psychosis and bipolar disorder. So it's like schizoaffective disorder is what it's called. It's where
Okay.
you have a mood disorder and you have schizophrenia, and it's the middle in the middle. So I went on a mission in my last marriage after it ended, um, where I wanted to figure out what I was, how to heal myself. I didn't want to be on medications because I felt like I was a zombie and I wasn't present in my own reality, and I was already checked out of reality anyways. So I wanted to
Mm.
actually like know what my baseline was, like what I was without any medication. And I had a psychologist tell me, hey, let's get prescribe you cannabis. And I was like, no, 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 I can't have weed. I can't do this. Don't you know my history? I'm an addict. I'm a recovering addict. Like this. And she literally gave it to me in small doses and figured out this. And I can't believe the switch that it causes. It helps my PTSD so much that I'm able
Wow.
to actually perform and do things. A couple of months ago, I could not function. I could not get out of bed. I would have my kids, my little toddlers, rapping at the door, going, "Mom, mom, mom," and I literally was stuck in a state of mind where I was just like having constant flashbacks
Mm.
over and over, and I couldn't figure out what was real and what was not, you know
Wow.
and the slightest sounds. And my husband was just like, I know that you don't want to partake in this any like you did before, but you really need to start. And so we went into looking back into it, and I take a little gummy beforehand and start my day. I call my kids. They're like, "Can I have one?" I go, "No, these are adult gummies. You could have
Yeah,
the little kid
you can have yours.
ones. Yeah, you can have the little fruit roll-ups, but these ones are mine." And it's really changed my day to day. So I wouldn't know if that would be something that you would explore, because I also have a friend who has like inflammatory disease, and
Mhm,
she uses cannabis oil, and she rubs
mhm.
all over her body. She partakes. She also taught me how to cook with cannabis. So we bake cookies and do all the
How
things because
interesting.
we're moms at the end of the day. You kind of have to be
Yeah,
slick with it.
yeah.
As long as you're like responsible about it, I don't care. But I didn't know if you ever tried to explore that avenue.
So for the pain, absolutely we've used, creams with CBD, and
Works
then,
wonders.
a couple of years ago, we were actually in Vegas, and in Vegas it's legal, and so we grabbed some of the ones that we thought didn't have the THC or TCH or whatever it was in there.
Hmm.
Um, we found out we ended up grabbing the wrong ones because my husband took one and was like, "Don't do it, don't do
That
it."
that must have been a great afternoon.
It
He's
was
like,
not.
uh,
We're the paranoid ones. We're like the ones that don't do well on this.
my
So
husband's the same way. So when he's like that sometimes too. He'll have a like he's like, no, I don't like the way this made me feel. I'm like, okay, go sleep, go take a nap. You'll have the best nap of your life.
so um it's not something that we've done except for the creams with the CBD. Like, so it helps with the pain, but only to a certain extent.
Yeah, it only helps for
So
a certain extent.
my antioxidant shake though, so my thought process with it was, well, I have to get my gut right because majority of our health starts in our gut. But
Oh,
in
good
order
to
to
know.
get my gut right, I need to make sure that that's like can be up to a 2 or 3 month process, right? So I've been doing that. I've been introducing a lot of better gut bacteria and all that good stuff. So
So a lot of
I did that
berries
for
and fiber.
yeah, so I did that for 2 months. And then that's when I started my antioxidant shake because I said, okay, well, now that my gut is better, I can introduce this because I need to lower the inflammation in my body. If I want to absorb any of the nutrients I'm eating in my food, I have to lower the inflammation. The inflammation is restricting my cells from absorbing it. So my
Oh.
next step was to do the antioxidant shakes, lower the inflammation, and I have about 2 more weeks left of that before I start introducing different highly nutritious foods that are going to say, okay, these are the specific vitamins I need, so these are the specific foods I'm just going to just start jamming down my throat as much as I can.
We're
And
like,
then
here.
it's a process, right? Like we eat clean
Yeah.
mostly anyway. But the difference is my gut health at 2 months plus my antioxidant shake 1 month to lower my inflammation. So in about 2 weeks, I have another test I'm going to take that will tell me how much inflammation is in my body. And
Well,
at that
that
point,
should help more often than none
yeah.
because it seems like what you've shared through your content is like you feel more inflammatory symptoms than anything, which for most of our listeners that don't know, like those are the most hidden symptoms that you can, feel because it really takes your body. You literally have the energy to do like maybe clean the kitchen and you're like halfway through the dishes and you're like, oh, I thought I'm drained. I can't do this.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. It's super crazy too because I'll have my days where I'm really good, like I'm great. And because I do financial services, right? So majority of me meeting my clients since I homeschool our kids is through online, right? Like I do Zoom or I
Hmm.
do cloud meetings or team meetings and things of that nature. I can do maybe 2 or 3 of those in the day and I'm like, okay, I'm good. But then all the back office stuff, right? Like my paperwork, I have
Yeah,
to
the
do it the next
admin
day.
side.
I
Yeah.
have to do it the next day. So I really have to weigh how I generate my time, right? Like, am I in front of people or am I in front of a screen? Because both of those will trigger my headaches. Obviously, the screen time more. But
Yeah.
the other one, while it doesn't trigger my headaches, triggers just me to be completely drained. So it's crazy.
Have you tried, because I know that when you do a lot of screen time, me too, doing all my admin stuff and sitting here for hours on end. I got these from my sister-in-law, but they're called LED glasses, and they just look like little frame glasses, but they protect the blue light and from your eyes, so they kind of help. Because I would sit here for hours. Yep, you got them. There you go.
I have my regular glasses that I use,
Yeah,
and I put it's like a blue light protection on them. It's like a coating
yeah.
or whatever. So I did do that, and then other times when I'm like reading, just on my phone, I have another pair of just blue light glasses that I wear for the screen. So
Well,
yeah,
I'm excited that you're sharing this journey, because like you shared with me, and if it's okay with everybody else, you have a podcast coming out, where you just
yeah.
kind of take us more in depth, with people and their journeys and your journey. So you want to share and elaborate more on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a podcast coming out. It's going to be dropping next week and it's called Undiagnosed. And I'm super excited about it. I'm going to be sharing not just my journey and what I'm experiencing and what I'm creating because of it, but I found that when I started traveling this road, there are so many other individuals who are just like me
Yeah.
experiencing not necessarily the same thing. Obviously, they're running into a lot of the same kinds of obstacles, but I wanted to have a way to showcase them, spotlight them, and say, what did you do in your journey? How did it affect you? What have you found that works for you? What doesn't work for you? And what are you creating because of it? And so I'm going to be interviewing other individuals, spotlighting them, and just really, I'm really hoping to bring about a community of people who can support each other, share in the journey, and not feel so alone. Because even though like we have other people around us who see what we're going through, they aren't going through it, so they experience it at a different level. And
Yeah.
so if we can have other people around us supporting us in what we're doing and saying, hey, you know what? I went to that same kind of doctor, right? Like, oh, my rheumatologist told me all my labs were normal too. I went to this person over here and I saw them. And so I'm hoping that, because I don't know if you or your listeners know or anything like that, but in the autoimmune community, like with chronic illness, there's not really a whole lot except medication. There's no cure, right? Like
No, there's
there's
no like
no solution.
aromatherapies. There's no like things like you said. Cannabis only out so far,
Right.
and then also like those like holistic healers. Like, um, it only goes so far. And I'm excited for you to start this podcasting journey because what I've learned in podcasting is it is a sense of community, and you are just adding to the and multiplying your community. I've made wonderful and genuine like connections with people on my podcast. Um, it's brought my sister and I together. This we
That's
us
awesome.
getting together on a random Tuesday afternoon. Um, scheduling that time to kind of just dive and really learn about people's lives and kind of figure out, us and our life and everybody else. And I'm just so interested in so many people's different stories because the greatest lesson I've learned, and I've shared a lot with my listeners, is you never know what it took behind closed doors for someone to stand tall and proud of themselves in front of you.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of things that have happened. And for you, it's literally making that choice to advocate for yourself every day.
Yeah.
And
Because
it's,
there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of people out there who are in the mentality, right? And I'm not going to say that I wasn't, because I still, right? My doctor prescribed me medication and I took it. And then she told me it wasn't that. So I gave her benefit of the doubt and I said, okay, well, if my medication isn't causing the symptom, fine, I'll take it again. I took it again and I called her again and said, no, I'm still experiencing this. It only happened after I started taking this medication. She told me a second time, it's not that. And I go, you know what, I'm done. But there's a lot of people who wouldn't be that way. There's a lot of people who would say, well, my doctor told me it's not it, so I'm going to keep taking this medication. And so I think advocating for ourselves is something that is necessary,
yeah.
but it's also something that it kind of seems like it's frowned upon. Like the
Yeah,
medical
because
community.
you're supposed to like trust your doctors. You're supposed to be like, all right, you said this. But when you've gone to like 20, 30 doctors that tell you the same thing over and over again, mind you, they're not perfect either. They're
Right.
trying to do the best that they can, but also it's frustrating. And
Yeah.
I can totally see how you would lose faith in the healthcare system, especially
Yeah.
here in America. And
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I have a friend of mine that is really amazing, and she's going to actually be a guest on a podcast because in light of her diagnosis, right? Like she was diagnosed with pot, she has EDS, but she created a podcast, and I love the way that she decided to run with it, right? Like she's
mm,
out there, she's sharing information because of her is why I truly believe I'm at where I'm at. And so I want to not just share her with my community, but I wanted to create the podcast. So how many
yeah,
other people are out there, and
just wondering.
I want them to all have one place to go and say, "Hey, here was my problem, here's my solution." I want, in the world of autoimmune, the average time is like 6 to 8 years for a diagnosis. And I'm
That must
sorry,
be
that's too long.
frustrating. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is too long, especially if you're going and you're getting tested and tested, poked and prodded, CT scans, MRIs. All of that is just taxing for them to be like, nah, nothing's wrong with you. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
makes you feel like you're a deluged maniac, and you're not. You're just like, I know. Yeah, and I used to feel that way too, dealing with my psychosis. It
Mhm.
was like, I know that this is happening. Nobody around me thinks that is happening because it's a mind. It's in your mind, and when you're going through psychosis, you're having delusions. You're not
Mhm.
feeling what you're disconnected from reality. You literally are like your brain puts you in this little space, safe space to protect you, um, but you are so disconnected from reality.
And
So yeah,
how long did it take you to kind of have that diagnosis, or, have
12
other.
years.
Wow.
I got diagnosed at the age of 6 with bipolar disorder and depression. I've been suicidal since I was 6 years old. I tried
That's
to kill
crazy.
my first suicide attempt. I was 7. I tried to hang myself
Oh
in a
my
group
goodness.
home, and then it then I turned when I had another attempt at 9, another 3 attempts at 13, 2 more attempts at 16, 19. When I had my daughter, I did not understand how my pre-existing psychosis and everything else could contribute to postpartum depression. I didn't think that I had postpartum depression. I felt ashamed to even be honest with my care provider to tell them,
Mhm.
"Hey, I'm not here. I'm mentally." So, with my mental illness, with bipolar disorder, they with that element, you if you highs are highs, so you will hyperfixate on things. So I'm a workaholic by nature. I worked in a nursing home, and I worked 7 days a week, 16-hour shifts. I was never home, and I had to make it, and when they let me go because I was so scatterbrained, I didn't pass our inspection. So they had to let me go and everything because it was, my boss's job or mine. And she's like, I choose hers. She
Yeah,
chose herself.
of
Um,
course.
but it got to a point where it was like, I didn't realize that that was me dealing with my postpartum. I
Wow.
masked it, I hid it, until I literally had a mental breakdown. And I was arguing with my husband one night, and I was like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. And by the third time I wrote, like that eureka moment happened where it was like, it's not that I don't want to be here in the marriage or here in the house. I literally don't want to be here anymore.
Mm,
I don't want to exist. I
that's
don't want
crazy.
to just be here. And so, I went back to therapy, and I literally told my therapist, I've been in therapy for all of my life. I've
Mm,
never taken it seriously. Why am I sitting on a couch for you to ask me how I feel about a certain situation? I need to get to the part of why is this happening to me? Why can't I correlate a thought? Because on the surface, on the outside, if someone were looking into my life, I've got it all. I've finally got a house that I love. I've got a husband and loving children. Had a good job, on the outside. So why would you be depressed? Why would you be upset? Why would you mask all those things? And it's because I was in a state of psychosis. And I
mm.
have to recognize those patterns before they happen. And so I went in and I told him, I was like, dude, I need someone to challenge me. And sure enough, he rose to the occasion. And I went through intense trauma therapy.
Wow.
Um,
Well, thank God for, your husband who was able to step in and willing to accept that challenge and say, okay, like,
it
let's,
has not been easy. Like,
I
it
bet.
has not been easy to really navigate those things. And I'm just starting um, to get out of those trenches, really. I feel sometimes when you're in these emotional fights, these and things in life, you feel like you're alone on a battlefield. Like, I'm the lone ranger. I'm ready to fight, even for you with your illness. It was like, you know that you're willing to go into this fight.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a lonely fight.
Yeah. And we really do like there when I'm going in to see doctors, like I'm on the top of that hill. I'm like, I'm charging, I'm ready, let's go. I'm going to
Yeah.
tell you what it is. I'm going to bring all of this to the table. I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to ask questions because I need to know that you know before I allow you to take care of me, before I allow you to be my physician, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm fighting that fight. And then when they give me just you're normal. There's nothing wrong. Or you have to go see somebody else when they want to push me off to another doctor. When they have no answers for me, I'm completely deflated. And I feel like, well, I didn't win a battle, but I didn't lose, but I'm here.
You're just
So
alone on that
why?
battlefield. Yeah.
Like, I'm
Uh,
just standing out here watching all my men die and going, well, there's nothing
uh,
I can do about it. What's the point?
mhm.
And so yeah, it's definitely like that ebb and flow. We get the highs, we get the lows, and finding a way to kind of like you're saying, dig out of the trench, right? Like just find the ladder to climb up. Even then can still feel really hard. Like the last doctor I had it left me completely deflated. Like I left his office feeling so sad and so upset that I cried for I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 hours on and off, just crying. And my mom asked me, well, what do you want to do? And I told her, because I was in such a sour state, I said, I don't know. I guess I'll just wait 5 years, get a mess, and come back for treatment. Because that's essentially what he told me was until you have like structural images that show something's wrong with you, there's nothing I can do. And I felt like, well, I guess I just have to let my body start killing me before I can find an answer. And I was
Mhm.
so sad that that was what a doctor gave me as an answer. So it took me probably about 2 months before I came out of that trench and said, I'm willing to start looking for answers again.
Yeah, because that experience is basically a doctor's telling you a psychological fuck you. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
that's basically what it
Essentially.
is. It's
Yeah.
essentially is like, well, there's nothing I can do for you. And the fate, and for you, I commend you for your strength and everything, because for you to continue to go back and find another physician and find those treatments and to take the time to research anything, that takes guts, takes pizzazz, really. And like I've learned in my own healing journey too, some people heal in private, we're healing in public. you
We
know
are.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I had a therapist really, how I started my content journey and my healing journey, was they told me find an outlet, find something. And I remember my husband put on my old YouTube channel, he's trying to make fun of me and about it, and I was like, I heal in public. And
Yeah.
so I decided to make a video, and I literally cried on the internet. For the first time in
I
my
commend you.
life.
I
Yeah.
commend you because I cannot. I recorded myself when I left that doctor's office who told me
Yeah.
basically, you're never going to find an answer. I cried. I cried and I recorded myself and I looked back at it that night and I deleted it because I said, I'm not
Oh
there
no,
yet. I
cry
can't
on the
cry on
internet.
the internet yet.
No, you need to
I
cry on
can't.
the internet. But I like I okay, so I woke up that day, and for the first time in my life ever, I experienced an insecurity that most women deal with. I just had a baby and I couldn't love myself. And I was
Mm,
working on inner child work of loving myself. And for the first time, I looked at my body and I was like, dude, what the fuck is this? Like, it's all tore up. I got a C-section scar halfway down. My
yeah.
belly's hanging. Like, everything's not the way it used to be. I used to be good. And so I
Yeah.
started to cry. And then, you know what? I was like, nope, if I'm going to do this, someone needs to hear it. So I took the duct tape, I stuck my phone in the mirror, and I literally cried. And I was like, I can't love. And I told myself, I told my followers, I can't love myself today. I literally can't. It sucks. And when I'm having a depressive episode, I really I make a video of like, you know what? I can't do it today. I can't. I'm so exhausted. I'm tired. But I still got to be a mom. I still got to get up. We still have to be moms at the end of the day. And that's a
Yeah.
struggle
It's, oh my gosh,
because it's a
so hard.
struggle. Yeah, and a lot of people don't think that it is a struggle, either if it's physical or mental, whatever type of illness you deal with. When you still have to be the default parent, you still have to show up. You don't get a day off. You don't get
Yeah.
to just throw in the towel. You have people depending on you, little kids on your back, ready, let's go. But
Yeah.
I have noticed that, I don't know if it's true for you, but my children have been my greatest savior. They have saved me in the moments where I didn't think that they could. I
Oh
remember
yeah.
one day I was literally sitting in the living room and all I could do was cry, and my little girl just kept coming up to me and bringing me toys because she kept wanting to
Oh
play with me, and she came up to me and she wrapped her arms around me and she gave me the biggest hug, and I was like, ah, you make life worth living.
yeah. And those are the moments. Those are them. Like my kids understand like what's going on with my face, right? Like I'll get pain, it'll hurt, it'll feel like a very, very burning sensation, just so hot. And so my little one, right, who's 5, she likes to like kind of hang on me and give me big hugs and stuff. And she was doing that, and I told her, like, okay, well, we have to stop. Mommy has to stop. And she just thought I was still playing, and I was like, no, baby, it's hurting my face. And then she let go and she put her little hands on my face, and then she gave me a little kiss and she was like, I'm sorry. And I was like, it's those moments though where I go, okay, you're compassionate, you understand, you see what's happening, and just knowing that they're there for me the same way that I'm there for them has really been my saving side, right? Because I'm recognizing they need me just as much as I need them, and they
Yeah,
know that.
definitely.
And
Definitely.
so
It
it's
doesn't matter what
so
age they are either, because I've got 2 and 5, so I've got toddlers running around.
yeah,
But for me, I really see like they don't realize how much they save you in those moments, and like for her to do that and to show that you have that compassion, like that's a good
mhm,
thing. Empathy is something that I strive to teach my children, and it seems that you do too, because that's not like very common in the world to have
yeah,
empathy. And like for me, my husband and I make it a very conscious decision to be affectionate and be very affectionate towards our children, because we didn't receive that affection as children, you know.
yeah, yeah.
So like for me, affection was like a sign of weakness, you know.
Huh. And
Like
see,
my
for
mother was very
me, it was
like
not that
tough.
way. For me,
Really,
affection was just like,
the
that's
gold
just what we
standard.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the gold standard.
And my
Yeah,
husband opposite. My husband was like, "No." They were like, "Oh, you're here. Awesome. Good to see you." Like,
good to see.
and
Yeah, that
yeah,
that's the
he was
approach.
like,
You
"You're
exist.
18. Cool. Get out of my house." Like,
Yeah,
so for me, we're opposites, but I can see where I'm rubbing off on him, right? So like now I like tell him, "Okay, it's okay to hug me. You can hug me now." And things like that. And it's just because like it's me being playful, but it's also me letting him know like I need attention today. so it's
yeah,
funny, I tease him. I'm like a dog, babe. Like, just give me
uh,
some attention when you get home and we'll be fine. Like,
yeah.
just
Oh,
come in and
yeah.
say hello.
Like with me in my flashbacks, I had to teach my oldest, my son, personal space, and I told
Mm,
him, well, sometimes people don't like to be touched, and I went through a couple months where I really couldn't be have any intimacy. I couldn't have someone touch me, give me a hug. Like it just made me feel very cringy and uncomfortable, made my skin crawl. And it's very hard when, I'm the one that smothers him and loves them all, and so he couldn't understand at that point where I was like, get away from me. And
yeah,
it was very hard for him to understand that. And so I had to like teach him, okay, well, I got a bubble, you got a bubble. I want to be in my bubble. And right now you need to respect my space.
yeah.
And so that's what thing. And like the other day, he got mad at me, and I was gonna go give him a hug when he was mad. He's like, "Respect my space." He yelled at me for it. And I was like, "Okay,
It's
Fine, go
hey,
play.
something you taught him stuck, so that is
Yeah,
good.
so he was mad at me, but he was like, respect my space. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna respect your space. I'll leave you alone then. You can go be
Yeah.
mad in a corner somewhere else.
Yeah, I do that with my kids too. Like my little one, she'll get really upset and she like doesn't really know how to express that anger yet because she's only 5, right?
Yeah,
And so
5-year-old.
she'll wanna shut down and she'll wanna do these things. She'll get mad and she'll just sit there and I'll ask her, "Is everything okay? Do you want to talk about it?" No. Okay. Would you like a hug? No. Okay. Well, when you figured it out and if you would like a hug, I'm here. And so, I don't know, sometimes half an hour will pass and I'll go check on her. Are you
Yeah,
still feeling this way? How are you doing right now? Are you ready for a hug yet? And usually she's like, yeah. And then she'll come and she'll give me a hug and she'll cry and she'll explain, like what happened or why she was mad. And we'll talk it out. But like that's something that like a 3-year process. And
yes,
it's
yes,
coming to fruition, but
yes.
it's a process. And so
Uh,
I'm trying my husband and I are both trying to teach our kids like the things that we didn't have, right? Like nobody
Same.
taught me how
Yeah,
to
same.
express emotion. Nobody taught me
Yeah, I
how
wasn't
to
taught.
do these things or be an adult, right? Like outside of like get a job and pay your bills and don't spend too much money. That was kind of like what we were
Yeah,
given.
conflict resolution was not taught. I negotiate with my children. Everyone's like, "Why are you to arguing with a toddler?" And I was like, "Because they need to learn how to resolve conflict." I
Yeah.
may get frustrated, and I will tell like my oldest, he's gonna be 5 next month, so that 5-year-old age gap, and we're working on his tone. And I was like, "It's not what you said; it's the way you said it." And
Mm.
I go, let's try it again. Let's try it again. And he'll try it. And so I went through a Saturday where it's like every time he said it in a rude manner, my answer was no. I go, if you ask me again in a nice way, my answer might change.
Yeah.
You
Sometimes.
know, and so I had to really like get that through his tone. But he tested my limits, and I have no patience. I'm learning patience. Children teach you the genuine art of patience.
They have a special way to push all those right buttons.
Yeah, and I think for him, I'm his step parent, so I'm his stepmom, and so his thing with me is, well, you're not my mom. I don't know, his that little attitude, and I was like, I'm still your mom. Your mom will tell you that still your mom,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
I think
and
that's a testing of the boundaries too, like
definitely
pushing their
because
limits and what can they get away with.
definitely because especially if for a child that goes from splits their time between two homes, the rules are different. Things expectations are different from to one set of parents to the next set of parents.
Yeah.
And so we have to navigate that in a unique way. But I think that it will build. I think it will build him some character. And he's starting to notice that different people have different family dynamics. And I was like, yeah. I go, my mom's here now, but grandma wasn't always around.
Yeah.
I had my grandma and my grandpa, and I lived with them for a really long time, and so I've been able to like navigate those things in parenting and like illness. When you have an illness, it really does affect your parenting too.
Oh yeah. 100%.
How has it affected yours in a way? Is it you trying to struggle to be more present, or is it just that discipline aspect or those values?
Uh, for me, really just more I don't want my kids to look back 15 years from now and be like, I don't remember mom playing with us. I don't remember mom taking us outside and doing these things with us. I don't remember having fun with mom. And I said I'm not going to cry on the internet, so I'm not going to cry. But
We can get teary eyed. We can get teary eyed though. Close enough.
those are the things I struggle with, right? Like cuz there are days that I don't get out of bed because I have a migraine and turning on the lights is just going to kill me. And so I'll tell the kids like I have nothing planned for you today. If you want to color, if you want to draw, if you want to do whatever you want to do, just don't go outside. Like that's fine. Whatever you can do
Yeah.
within the house, I'm okay with. But this is where I am. So struggling to want to go run around and play with them, take them to the park, we'd love to take them fishing if we had the opportunity, but these are just things that we're not doing because I can't do them, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
you
just,
physically can't do it. You can't.
and so those I struggle with that aspect of parenting. Like the discipline is okay. We're getting the values through. The homeschooling is working. Me working from home running my business is working, but only because of the flexibility that's allowed with it, right? Like
Yeah, definitely.
if my children were in public school and I had to have them somewhere every day, it probably wouldn't work. And if I had to be present at a job every single day for specific hours, it's probably not going to work. And I only say that from the sense of when I get my headaches, they're small in the beginning, like a 2 or a 3, and they'll stay that way for anywhere between a week or 2. And I don't know when they're going to switch because they'll just completely flip, and I'll wake up one morning migraine that lasts for 3
Oh,
days.
yeah.
And so for me, my struggle as a parent really is the being present, right? Like I feel like I'm absent, and it isn't because I'm not here or not with them, but it's because they don't understand why I'm not doing the things they're asking me to do. Like, mom, you're making breakfast, you're cooking food, you're working, you're, doing these other things, but how come you're not here with us? How come you're not coloring with us? How come you're not taking us outside? How come we're not riding bikes and scooters and stuff together, walking around the neighborhood?
Hmm.
And that's the hard part for me. That's where I struggle.
Yeah, I have struggled with that with my mental illness. And I had to think of, I was given this in a group therapy. It's called the one cup theory. It means that you find things that will fill your cup. So today I took a shower and I showed up for therapy. My cup is full.
I like
Right,
that.
my
Yes.
cup is full, and that's what a lot of it was. And I want to. I needed the group therapy because I needed that sense of community, and it was a lot of just different women struggling with parenting and motherhood and depression.
Mm,
And it was that, and the facilitator therapist used to tell us, do what's in your cup today, and that's what it was. And so for me it was like, okay, I showed up for therapy, I combed my hair, I'm gonna go play blocks for 20 minutes, 30 minutes with my kid. I filled my cup up. And but it was always about, when filling my cup up, it was always about being intentional what I had the energy for that day.
mm, yeah.
So if I didn't have the energy for playing or anything, well, you know what? We cut it up and we watched a movie.
Yeah.
Because
And
that's
then
what I had the effort for. But you're still
you're
making
still
those
able.
time.
Yeah. And we do
And
that
I
too. We
just,
have movie days, and I've been trying
yeah,
to get outside more, so I've been trying to lean away from the movie days. And my daughter was like, "Can we watch a movie?" And she did that last week. I was like, "Yeah, we'll watch a movie."
movie. Yeah.
But it
So
is, it's nice.
it's all about filling your cup and being intentional. And so I would like you to take that away from this, is like, okay, you woke up and you feel, if it's one of those bad days, it's one of those bad days. Just accept it and just be like, all right, what do I have? What are the top 3 things I can put in my cup today to fill it up?
And I
Okay, I
love
got to
that.
work on my business for 20 minutes to an hour or whatever. I'm going to go spend time with the kids. We're probably going to make a meal together. Something, but
I'm gonna make like a little
a little
dried fish
cup, a
cup,
little cup.
and I'm
Yeah.
gonna have the 3 layers in it, right?
Yes.
Like kind of
Yeah.
like they do for your water bottle, right? They like put
Uh-huh.
the times you're supposed to have this done by. I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna set it right here, and I'm gonna like every day I'm gonna let you see what I'm doing. I love that
Yeah.
idea. The 3, and if I can share one thing with you, one thing that my husband sent my way, right? Like I think he read it in a book, but it was one thing he said that sent me on a way to even being able to be where I'm at right now. And it was, you don't have to do everything, right? Just be 1% better every day.
Yeah.
And so, excuse me. So that 1% better every day is really the great little small steps into
Oh
doing
yeah.
the big thing that I need to accomplish. So, um, it's kind of a running joke here, but when I do things, right? Like, I don't know. I took
And
out
it's
my
always
weight.
okay to ask for help though too. I've
Yeah,
had to learn that in this process too. Is like, I'm a very prideful person at heart. So asking for help was a really hard pill for me to swallow.
so different.
Because yeah, because I'm this independent. I don't need nobody. I was raised on that mentality. My mom fed that into me, bread and butter. You don't need
Like,
nobody. You
I can do
yeah
things, but I do ask for help. Like, that's
yeah
very I'm like, "Yeah. Can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me?" And
yeah.
my
I
husband's
mean,
like, "Do you need help for everything?" I'm like, "No,
no,
I
but
just
I
can't
like
open
it.
the
I
jars."
appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate it. Don't
Yeah, for sure.
sometimes. Yeah.
And it's a process, it's a struggle, but we get there. And I think for me, my struggle isn't necessarily asking for help. My struggle is people don't know how to respond to it, I think, because
Yeah, definitely.
like I fractured and dislocated my pinky, right? My finger both of my fingers are already broke crooked, but that's just the way I was born. But I fractured and dislocated one when I was about 12. And I waited like 4 hours before I even went home and told my mom, like, oh, hey, by the way, my pinky's like double in size and
Okay.
purple and I can't move it. And
Yeah.
of course, she was like freaking out. But that's my level of pain is I can deal with it. Like,
Mhm.
just walk it off. That's always really been my thing. Like, I don't complain about my issues. And so now I'm having to explain to people, medical professionals, my family, like where my level of pain is because they're so used to me not saying anything until it's absolute, right? Like until it's broken, basically. Like
Yeah,
Hillary's
because
not going to tell us anything until it's broken.
yeah, because when you put yourself out there like, oh, I'm this tough cookie, I'm the tough one, I'm the strong one, and it's very hard to have that, like, people see you in a different light. Like, my family is like, what do you mean? Like, especially from mental illness and mental health, and even you with your inflammatory things, it's unseen. Nobody was like, what are you talking about? And it's hard to sit there and constantly have to explain yourself
Hmm.
constantly over and over again.
Yeah. And they still don't get it. They still don't understand. So I've had to just kind of take a seat and say, I don't feel good today.
Yeah.
Kind of like you were saying. Like because it's not worth explaining and not necessarily like it's not worth it, but I'm going to go through all of this and at the end of me explaining it, you're still not going to get it. And that's
Mhm.
okay. I accept that. I'm like, you don't get it. That's okay. And so I'm not giving people a pass. I'm just not getting upset that they don't get it. I'm like, it's
I guess
okay.
it's okay.
I do.
Um,
I know.
so
But
on your new path, what do you want people to get away from the new podcast and just you as this new creator? Like, podcasting allows your audience to know more about you and connect with you more, I feel. And I also like I'm looking forward to being one of the very first few listeners next week.
yes, love it.
But I'm excited and I really thank you for coming on here and sharing like your journey and everything and us being able to like compare things. And I'm glad that you could walk away with the one cup theory because it's really helped me a lot. I know that dealing with a lot of medical issues, it also it can weigh on your mental health. And I'm all
Yeah,
about self care. I'm in this new like healy girly like era, so I'm glad that we can connect on this level.
absolutely. Me too. Thanks for having me. Thank you for sharing all of your journey with me. That's just incredible.
Yeah.
I really, I'm so grateful that you are still here to share your story, right? Like, I mean, what you're going to do, not just with this podcast, but with your content creation and the videos that you're making. You're going to be helping so many people. And I really look forward to seeing your podcast grow, your content
Yeah.
grow. And I'm really looking forward to watching you evolve just in your journey, where you're at, where you're going. And your
They,
health
yeah,
journey.
big things are coming our way. Big things are coming both our ways, um, and hopefully the inflammatory disease community can really benefit from your new podcast and really benefit and have that sense of, oh wow, I'm not alone.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
I'm really hoping people are going to be able to take away from Undiagnosed, my new podcast that's coming out, is that you're not alone. There is support. And I'm hoping that if anybody is in search, right? If you're still undiagnosed, if you're dealing with a mystery illness like I am, I'm hoping that we can, curb the time in which a diagnosis is found. Instead of getting you a diagnosis in 8 years, can we find it in 4? By having other people who have paved the way before us tell us what has worked, what hasn't, who they saw, what they did. And that's really my hope there, is shedding light so that we can all work together to find answers much faster than what we've been given them.
All right, that was the sesh. I thank you guys for tuning in this week. If you want to know about Hillary, I'm going to link all the new socials down below, her new pod when it comes out, everything, because I want to stay connected. I will see you later in our community because we are always connecting on a day to day, and I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you for just sharing your journey with us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.